Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill, third reading.
Great, a subject of real substance.
Call on Adrian Rarafi.
Well done, Adrian. Well done, Adrian.
Order. We're moving on. I've called Adrian Rarafi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Tēnā koe te māngai o te whare. Aha ko ngā piki me ngā heke o ngā kōrero kua tae mai ki tēnei pere hohunu ki te motu nei. Sir, I am very happy that we have arrived at the third reading of the Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill. The Official Information Act is one of the few mechanisms of democratic accountability. It gives taxpayers and voters the confidence that decisions are made on their behalf and that they are right and proper. So the purpose of the Principal Act that this bill wishes to amend leads off with the following words. The purposes of the Act are consistently with the principle of the executive government's responsibility to Parliament. It then goes on to talk about the availability of official information. It talks about effective participation in making and administration of laws and policy. It talks about the accountability of ministers of the Crown and officials. It talks about respect for the law. It talks about promoting good government, proper access to official information. It talks also about the protection of official information. So as a Parliament, we expect to have in place robust mechanisms to hold the executive to account, and the Official Information Act is one of them. That is why this bill is before the House. So the executive government is at the forefront of the purpose of the Official Information Act 1982. And as the Government Administration Committee was advised by the New Zealand Law Society, Parliamentary Under-Secretaries are part of that executive. Therefore, there is an anomaly in how Parliamentary Under-Secretaries are treated with respect to the Official Information Act, and my bill will correct that anomaly. And to do this, the bill inserts ministers of the Crown includes a Parliamentary Under-Secretary. This simplifies the bill and gives it the flexibility to accommodate continued evolution of the executive roles and functions. This amendment refers only to official information held by Parliamentary Under-Secretaries in the official capacity subject to the Official Information Act 1982. In their report to the Government Administration Committee, the Ministry of Justice considered that this bill is consistent with the purposes of the Official Information Act. And with the constitutional position of Parliamentary Under-Secretaries as part of the executive with the ability to exercise delegated ministerial power. And therefore, the Ministry of Justice recommended that this bill should proceed. So I'd like to make some acknowledgements. I want to acknowledge all of the submitters that made submissions, and there were only a few, but I wanted to in particular acknowledge the submissions from the New Zealand Law Society and the New Zealand Law Commission. I think that and I reflect back to the first reading of this bill, and there was some substantial opposition to this bill. Since then, I think that the weight of evidence provided by the New Zealand Law Society and the New Zealand Law Commission, as well as the report from the Ministry of Justice, has kind of, at the very least, persuaded, but I would go so far as kind of forced the hand of both of the government parties to reconsider their position. And as we saw in the second reading and at the committee stage, that reconsideration has been forthcoming, albeit with some elements of discussion, some of it which I thought was quite irrelevant. I reflect on some of the questions asked at committee stage, and I would have to say, where I come from, we have a saying. It's only 4 words, but it goes, good kaupapa, wrong hui. And that basically means that some people have brought up good topics within the discussion, but it's at the wrong meeting or at the wrong process. And so I wanted to just let people know that despite calling this bill a silly bill, you must surely have to be beyond silly to vote for something that you think is silly. And I'll let the general public make their own decision about the ability of someone to be able to make that kind of statement in this House. But I do want to acknowledge the government, the National Party members, for reconsidering their position. And as I said, I think the weight of evidence from both the New Zealand Law Society and Law Commission were such that helped that process along. It would be an unusual situation for a government, I guess, to vote against its own Ministry of Justice, because the Ministry of Justice was very clear on their position on this bill. So I want to acknowledge the members of the Government Administration Committee, led by the Honourable Ruth Dyson, and all of the members for the work that they did on this bill. I want to also acknowledge Chris Hipkins, who was the original, who originally submitted this bill, and I inherited it off him. I was very pleased to do so, actually. As a member of the Government Administration Committee, I was very happy to accept that on behalf of the Labour Party. We're about open government. This is what this bill is about. As I said, the executive government is at the forefront of the purpose of the Official Information Act. The Parliamentary Under-Secretaries are part of that executive, and they should also be part of the Official Information Act where it is relevant to their work as a Parliamentary Under-Secretary. Sir, I want to also just thank the House for in this process. It has been a learning process for myself as a first-term MP, and to help a bill through its entire stages and to come to third reading. I have learned a lot about this process. I've probably learned a lot more about people's own way of dealing with things, and they haven't always been upfront and honest about it. And I think that as we are at third reading, it's actually time to either vote for this bill with real determination and purpose, or just don't vote for it at all, Mr. Seymour. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi atu ki te whare e tūake nei. Aha ko ngā piki me ngā hikea e pāna ki tēnei pire e tino e tino mihi atu kia tātou o tēnei whare. Nō reira, Mr Speaker, tēnā koe.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.